I knew I would get you into this series of building the Estes Hi-Flier XL. Well, today in this video, we are going to work on assembling the fuselage. The supplies that we will need today is an X-Acto knife, medium CA glue, wood glue, our ruler, a pencil, sandpaper, and wood filler is optional. The parts from our kit that we will need is the second body tube piece and the body tube coupler. You can see here the fins have been attached to the lower section of the fuselage. I'm going to remove the upper section and the body tube coupler. I was using that as counterweight while I had it in my cradles. And you'll notice I am pointing out some imperfections that I have circled in pencil. Our goal is to help remove those. To get started removing those imperfections, I'm going to grab some sandpaper and sand out the areas until it is nice and smooth. Here I am using 400 grit so I don't accidentally remove too much material. After I'm finished sanding, I did notice that it left the fuselage a little porous and fibery, so I'm going to take some wood glue and smear it over the areas that I have sanded. This will help seal the fibers and I will be able to sand that down later to get a smoother finish. Now you might be wondering why I'm taking the time to do this step now. Well, in my opinion, sealing down these fibers will help prevent them from sticking up when I apply my layers of primer, and help mitigate how much sanding I need to do when I do the primer step as well. I am being careful here to only apply glue to the areas that really need it. I don't want to keep spending my time sanding to get a nice smooth surface. Alright, now that I am done, I'm going to go ahead and set the lower part of the fuselage off to the side to dry. Alright, the lower part of the fuselage where the fins are is looking good, the glue dried nicely. So now it's time to install the upper fuselage. I'm going to use my wood glue as well as some super glue. Now, using the super glue was a mistake, and I'll explain why later. I'll remove the upper tube and the coupler tube. I was using it as counterweight while I was in the rocket cradle. What I'm going to do now is take some sandpaper and rough up the surface of the body coupler. Sanding this coupler tube created a lot of dust, so I'm going to wipe it off. Excellent, now our coupler tube is sanded and ready to go. Let's go ahead and do that with the lower part of the fuselage. I'm using 220 grit sandpaper here to really get some nice grooves in the material without removing too much material. Again, I am wiping out any extra dust so it doesn't interfere with the glue up. I will repeat this process with the upper body tube. So I don't lose track of which side of the body tube I sanded, I'm going to mark a little S. Alright, now it is time to glue up the body coupler. I'm going to take some wood glue and apply a generous amount around the circumference, about halfway up. Now I'm about to apply some super glue to the circumference as well, but let me tell you why this is not a good idea. You see, water tends to have this amazing ability to kickstart the reaction super glue does to cure, and the water in the wood glue started that reaction as soon as I applied it. So it was really hard to get that coupler tube into the bottom part of the fuselage. You can see I'm struggling a little bit, and I didn't quite make it halfway down. I am removing the excess so it doesn't dry and get in the way, but I do apply it to the top part of the coupler tube as well, which again is also a bad idea because the wood glue did start to dry a little bit here, and it got in the way of putting on the upper part of the fuselage. So now I'm getting ready to glue on the upper part of the fuselage, and I'm applying the wood glue again around the circumference of the coupler tube, spreading it out with my finger so it's not too thick in some areas, but you did notice that my finger did stick as I tried to spread the glue around. This is not good, and you should take this as a warning sign to stop what you're doing and wipe off any excess glue that you can and let it dry. Once it is dry, re-sand the area. Try to get it as close to the material as you can and make sure that the fit is good again. And this will prevent the issue that you're seeing happen right now, where I am struggling to get that upper body tube onto the coupler. The glue is just providing too much friction and I can't get it to seat properly. I even tried forcing it here, which again is a good way to bend your body tube, so I do not recommend doing this. So what I did is I stopped, I pulled apart the coupler tube and the body tube, and I wiped off as much as I could and I let them dry and I re-sanded it. I don't have footage of me re-sanding it and reattaching the body tube together, but trust me, this step saved the rocket. If I had not done this, there would have been a pretty big gap between the lower part and the upper part of the body tubes with the coupler tube showing in between, and it would just not look pretty. Be a pain to fill in with wood glue and body filler or wood filler if you will, and it would have created a big mess. So again, if you meet any resistance at any point in this process, stop, remove the pieces if you can, and let them dry, resand, and try again. We're not going for a super tight fit, but enough for the glue to bond. Alright, so that is how you attach the upper body tube to the lower body tube for the Estes Hi-Flier XL. Again, I'm sorry I don't have a video of me successfully joining the two, but if you remember those steps I mentioned just a moment ago, it'll help you immensely. Thanks for watching.